cannot say what's wrong or right.
No.
It's not hard to fool me.
No.
'Cause I'm addicted to the good life.
Yes.
Yeah. Lead the way, I follow. No need to say.
No.
Where we are heading now, babe, I follow to the edge of it all, to the edge of it all. So tell your good night, 'cause I'll find no better one, yeah. Susceptible now, before the moment flies. Ooh, so tell your good night, 'cause I'll find a better one. Ooh, susceptible now, before the moment flies. It's not a problem,
No.
'cause I know what I'm getting into.
Yes.
Yeah, and nothing can stop me,
No.
'cause I'm addicted to what you and I realize. Lead the way, I follow. No need to say where we are heading now, babe. I follow to the edge of it all. So tell your good night, 'cause I'll find a better one, yeah. Susceptible now, before the moment flies, before it flies. So tell your good night, 'cause I'll find a better one. Susceptible now, before the moment flies. Yeah. In this moment,
Yes.
I cannot say what's wrong or right.
No.
It's not hard to fool me,
No.
'cause I'm addicted to the good life.
Yes.
Yeah, lead the way, I follow. No need to say
No.
where we are heading now, babe. I follow to the edge of it all, to the edge of it all. So tell your good night, 'cause I'll find a better one, yeah. Susceptible now, before the moment flies. Ooh, so tell your good night, 'cause I'll find a better one. Ooh, susceptible now, before the moment flies. It's not a problem,
No.
'cause I know what I'm getting into.
Yes.
Yeah, and nothing can stop me,
No.
'cause I'm addicted to what you and I realize. Lead the way, I follow. No need to say where we are heading now, babe. I follow
What's up, guys? This is Rob, and I'm the vet.
Hey, this is fake Murph, and I am the maintenance. What's up, guys? It's Shea. I'm the noob. I'm the girl. Welcome to the Waiting Table podcast. You were.
I was gonna say,
that, huh?
yeah, I was gonna say, who's gonna be filling in for Murph? I was like, okay, let me get my deep voice. Let me get my boys to men going. But
I know we didn't really
I think you did
talk
good.
about that before, but I just went with it.
No, I think that's good. Yeah, go for it. Totally. I enjoyed it very, very much. It's almost as good as when I do your voice. Yeah, exactly. Thanks, everyone, for joining us on another episode of the Waiting Table podcast, where we have roundtable discussions about the hottest topics in weight loss with, of course, the coolest people from the bariatric community. I'm Rob. Unfortunately, we don't have Murph tonight, but we got Shea, and of course, we got you guys. So grab a chair, wind down from your busy day, and take a seat at the table. Shea, you get the hot seat. How's it going today? I don't think you really stress about it like Murph does.
I know, but if I'm taking on like the Murph persona, like I feel like I have to be like, good. I'm doing good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Murph got his new job, so congratulations to him. But I'm missing him. It feels weird when he's not on with any of us when we're not here. It feels weird.
Yeah,
but
I
I'm
agree.
doing good overall. How about you? How are you doing?
Awesome. Today is awesome. I've been able to be more mobile as of late, so my back's been feeling better. I've been
getting back to your ballet, and
my ballet has been rocking it. Oh my god,
Nice.
I am rocking those pliés. Woo!
Yes, them
But
thighs.
no, I'm back to playing pickleball maybe 4 or 5 days a week. Cycling is getting back into it. Once the kids are done their after school activities, which is going to be one more week, I'm back to 5 days a week cycling. So it's
Nice.
yeah, and I honestly, the big thing I can't wait to do, I can't wait to start lifting weights again. Like, that's my big thing I can't wait to do. So, which is an awesome segue to our guest tonight. I'm super excited about our guest tonight. Shea, if you can please introduce.
Yeah, so I am so excited. When I started looking into bariatric surgery, I looked into Blossom Bariatrics, and that's the program I ended up going with. And when I was exploring what they had to offer, learning more about bariatric surgery, the Blossom podcast is one of the first ones that I listened to. And it was with this really cool guy. And he was like, I'm Alex Concepcion, like a name like that, right?
Right? It's a
And
superstar name.
I know. And so when I got a lot of good information from him and his podcast. And then when I saw him for my actual surgery, I was a little starstruck because it was like Alex Concepcion.
Do you say it like that? Like when you hear his name, do you hear it like Alex Concepcion?
Alex in my head. I didn't want to
It's like a Filipino action movie narrator.
Right, exactly. But that's like you guys have to listen to the podcast and you'll get it. But yeah, so he is a registered dietitian and he just has so much good information. And so Alex, welcome to the show.
What's going on, guys?
What's up, buddy? How are you?
Fantastic. It's a pleasure to meet you, Rob. Shea, good to see you again.
You too.
I told Rob that you guys, Rob and Alex, you guys, there's going to be like an instant bromance. I just feel it. Like you guys have a lot in common. And so setting the stage with that.
Yeah. My back hurts too.
Yes. I'm not alone. Awesome, man.
That's awesome.
Thank you for joining us. That's amazing that you're jumping on.
Thank you for having me. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah. Well, Alex, do you want to just kind of talk about just kind of a little bit about you and just kind of introduce you to our friends that are on with us?
Yeah. Hello, friends. How you doing, community? The Waiting Table. Again, thank you for having me on. Just like Shea said, my name is Alex Concepcion. I'm a registered
You got to say
dietitian.
it. You got to say it like she said.
Well, it's actually not me that's saying it on there. It's the voice.
It's the introduction.
It's the intro. So it is very deep and like a game show host, like
That's
Alex.
good.
Yeah, Concepcion.
Alex Concepcion.
There you go.
And yeah, I'm a dietitian, personal trainer as well, mostly consultation right now just because we get really busy. There's so many patients, and I've dealt with the entire spectrum of weight management, from bodybuilding to bariatric surgery and everything in between, from chronic illness to just overall health or wanting to get healthy in your life, and how to take those steps. So that is basically what I do, and everything health and wellness, so to speak. And I like to dabble into all of that. So I've been at Blossom for almost 5 years now, and a lot of the nutrition program was developed by me in tandem with the doctors when I just started. But they did want to see what I would do with the program. When I got there, they actually didn't have anybody to really tell me how things were done. They were just like, "Well, we would like to see what you would do," and it was fruitful for both of us, I guess.
That's
And of
awesome.
course, Shay says too. She gained some value, and I'm very glad, and I'm glad you're receptive to it, and also the success that came with that too. So congratulations.
Right? Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, no, I loved my whole experience with Blossom, and just the program that you guys have is very impressive. And I know, and the thing that I appreciate about you guys is that you're open to feedback and just growing and expanding. And so that's super cool. Um, can you tell us a little bit, Alex, like why did you get into being a registered dietitian? Was there an experience or a story that kind of like prompted or launched you into that career path?
Yeah, actually, it's kind of a long story, but to condense it
We
a
got
little bit,
time. We got time. It's cool.
I originally, so I actually left home when I was 17, and I went straight into college. I graduated at 16, and I went straight into college. I left home and just tried to navigate life. But what do Filipinos do? They go into nursing. And that's
Yes, we
what I
do.
originally right. So I was a nursing major, but also as a 17-year-old, first into the wild, trying to figure out life. I wasn't very focused on school. It was just like, okay, I guess this is what I'm supposed to do to become successful, is to go this route and get an education. I actually ended up in academic probation, and I dropped out of school. I dropped out of school, and I went into business 101. And then the economy crashed. We had CEOs, like killing themselves. The market was crazy. This was back in what the market crashed in like 2008, to 2010 was just like really rough. And so I dropped out of school and I tried to become a cop. Okay, so I was like, I went
That doesn't
through
surprise me. I could see that. You could have
I
made
feel
the
like
the
you're
cop thing work.
speaking my whole like educational history as well. Like
really.
me nursing, talking to my parents about, hey, maybe I want to go back to be a cop. Like this is all everything I've done too.
Yeah, it was. I was wondering. I'm like, okay, I like to help people, and I think it would be really cool to become a cop. And I went through this program that was just the physical stuff, basically the academy that is just in terms of training. Some of the people from the academy were there just to kind of put you through the ringer, and I crushed it. And I was like, I want to be a cop, man. This is cool. I even went on a ride along. It was probably one of the craziest ride alongs that anybody could imagine, enough to where the person I was having the ride along with telling me that, hey, you got to understand, every day is not like this.
Yeah.
Okay, there was like bomb threat. There was we did a high speed chase. There was even some domestic disturbances, but also there was even a homicide that day. There was like somebody got killed, and I was like right there, and we went looking for these people, and I'm like, holy crap, man. Like I don't know if you want me to go with you. Do I get a weapon? Like we're about to go chase down these people that just killed some people. And I was like, but also I still wanted to, and I jumped along, and I was like, okay, let's do this. We didn't find those people. Eventually they did get caught, but when I went through that process, there was the testing and all of the personal history. Funny enough, of course, we all have a past. They told me everybody from top to bottom said, just be honest, even though I had never been in trouble and I was just honest. But the fact that I was young, whatever I was honest about, said, hey, we can't move you forward because this isn't gonna what they want. Whatever I admitted to, you needed at least 7 years, and I was like, man, I should just kept my mouth shut. But
Yeah.
it all worked out for the best. So after that, I was going through the college catalog, and I was wondering, hey, what is consistent in my life, my entire life? It has been health and wellness. And honestly, I didn't even know that you can become a dietitian. I didn't even know that this was an actual route, going through the university and taking the classes, going through your graduate program and testing for your boards. I was like, damn, okay, let's go for it. This is what I want to do. And I went through it. I turned out with everything that I failed at in nursing, I had to redo, but I did well now, because I guess if you're not passionate about it, of course, you're not going to really pay attention. Now that I'm passionate about it, everything moved forward in a very positive way. And yeah, everything was great. Funny enough, so in order to become a dietitian, you have to get your bachelor's in nutrition. Now actually it's moving up to a master's before you have to apply for a graduate program, and you cannot test for your boards unless you go through this program. At the time I went to UNLV here in Las Vegas, they were only accepting like 21 students a year, basically. So it was extremely competitive. They were only limited by the amount of preceptors that they had at the hospitals. So if I didn't get in, I'd have to apply out of state. And I ended up getting in. Everything was great. But through this process, it was extensive, like interviewing and essays and all of that stuff. I learned that my grandmother was actually a dietitian.
Wow.
And I didn't even know that she was.
It was in your blood all
It
along.
was in my blood. And funny enough, when I went to Blossom, I didn't even know it at the time, but until I got there, I didn't know it beforehand, that my grandfather, my grandma's husband, was actually one of 2 bariatric surgeons in the 70s in Chicago. And I was like, what? That is insane. I had no idea. He was a surgeon, because he's been passed away for a while, and he hadn't been in practice for a long time because he got glaucoma and he lost his eyesight. So from what I remember at a very young age, that he wasn't active in medicine or anything that I knew. And I never knew that story until I got into Blossom, that my grandfather was actually a bariatric surgeon.
A pioneer. That's so cool.
Wow.
So that was wild. So I guess it really was in the blood, and it was almost meant to be, I guess.
That's crazy. So like, you've named a lot of different things in terms of, where you've worked in regards to your dietitian work and health. What made you pinpoint specifically on working with bariatrics, though? Was it the connection with your grandfather, or was there something specifically that sort of drew
So
that?
it was just luck. I don't know if it was meant to be, because right out of college, I went into private practice, and I started just weight management in general. That's when I became a personal trainer, and because my passion also was bodybuilding and things like that too, and that is where I was drawn towards. But what made me start looking into other avenues were because I did love the chronic illness side of things. It was a lot of people came to me more for fitness and wanting to compete and more to have that magazine body versus the reward that I get and the fulfillment that I get to getting somebody off of medication or reversing diabetes or something like that. And it was just like so much more rewarding. And what allowed me to actually take that step was me losing the fire in the gym for myself. You know, if you're there all day dealing with the same thing and you at the end of the day, it's like, man, I just want to go home.
Yeah.
I don't have time to work out right now. And that became a little bit more consecutive to where I would look into other avenues to restore the fire that I had in the gym, because it turned more into work than
Yeah.
than my passion. The gym used to be my outlet. It used to be my sanctuary. Now it turned into just work, and that's where I started looking in other places. But I had an opportunity to go to the VA, and I'm not military, by the way, but I have a lot of friends and clients that are, and I had an opportunity to go to the VA, but I went through that route and it just fell through. But through that process, this is also very where it was just meant to be, because I actually didn't work in clinical at all prior, and I didn't work in the hospital or anything like that outside of my graduate program and making those relationships and working at that time. But through that process, I went through LinkedIn and I put all this information in, and I just kind of forgot about it. I was like, okay, it fell through. I guess this is what I'm doing. No harm, no foul.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really trying to pursue anything. Maybe a month later, 2 months later, I get a call from Blossom saying that, hey, you put in some information. It was a very black and white ad. They were like seeking, a dietitian, nutritionist, and I had no idea who they were, nor did they advertise it through their LinkedIn or what have you. I just kind of put in my information. I was like, outpatient, I love it.
Yeah.
That's a little bit easier than inpatient, and I would and it's dealing with what I like, which is weight management. Okay, let's throw it in. Had the interview, they loved me, I loved them, and the rest was history. And that's where it went. They loved me as an entrepreneur, but also as somebody who deals with weight management and dealing with clients and consultations on a very regular basis. They were just curious of how I would put together a program, and then it essentially manifested from there.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, and it's cool hearing the background, because I didn't really know any of like the history about that. But something that struck me with Blossom is that I feel like they know how to find really talented people and just like good people. Like, and that's what I noticed from like the first phone call I had to having my surgery to post-op care. Like, you guys are just like a group of really cool people. Like, and you
Thank
can't,
you.
it's true though. Like, and you can't really fake that. Like I work, I have a lot of experience with patient experience and working with ambulatory clinics. And so I see a wide gambit of a lot of different clinical environments. And it's just kind of shocking how warm and welcoming and genuine you guys are. Like, you guys are just, it's a solid group of people, and it's something really special. Like, do you
Thank
feel that
you.
too, being in that environment? Like, how does it feel working there?
100%.
Yeah.
It feels great, and I love it. I love it there. I love the people. I actually question that too. I'm like, how do you find
Mhm.
us? Because yeah, I've never worked in a setting. I've never worked with people to where everybody was, you know,
Mhm.
driven, compassionate, and also like really have a genuine want to help people. And
Mhm.
that's where Blossom actually shines, and we pride ourselves in it. But if I were to try to replicate that, I'm wondering like, how would I even find these people also? And
Yeah.
I'm learning a lot too as an entrepreneur, um, leading the nutrition side of things. I've getting a grasp of how things are done, and it's really insightful. It's really cool to learn. But to answer that question, I guess what I just presented is we're quick to hire but quick to fire, in terms of if you
Mm.
don't fit
Mhm.
in, we're going to let you know. And that's kind of I feel like a huge plus, because what I hear from a lot of people generally in just working are people complaining a lot about whatever management or this and that, or this isn't changing, so and so doesn't do this. Like, well, where's your management? And that's where Blossom shines in terms of management. And we do pretty much monthly one-on-ones with supervisors and things like that to address all of the issues, and then taking the steps to correct those issues or to have the team feel involved in all of that. So we're not just a number, just as you're not just a number. And I think it carries along with the patient care in terms of how Blossom treats their own internal people as well.
Yeah, I can attest to that, and I agree. And
Mhm.
Rob, feel free to jump in on any questions. Do you have anything? I was going to ask another one, but
No, go ahead. I have a couple, but go ahead.
okay. I was just, while we're on the topic of Blossom, Alex, can you give just like an overview? Because a lot of the people that are joining us are in all different walks of life in general,
Mhm.
but when it comes to bariatric surgery, some that this is the first time they're ever hearing about bariatric surgery.
Yeah.
Like, what is that? Some that maybe are pre-op and they're getting ready to, embark
Yeah.
on the journey. Some that are, just had surgery. Some that are, we have some people that are part of our group that have had, it's been 10 years since they've had surgery. So we have a wide variety
Yeah.
of people, but could you just kind of explain a little bit about how Blossom as a program works? Because every program is so different, just to kind
Hmm.
of give people an
Mhm.
idea on how kind of the approach that you take, that Blossom takes when it comes to bariatric surgery.
Before I answer that question, Rob, what procedure did you have?
So I had RNY gastric bypass. I'm in Canada. So
Okay.
yeah, totally different program from what you guys run here too. So it's interesting
How's
to
the
hear
uh
how
how's
things.
how's the weather over there with the fire and
Oh,
all
it's
that stuff?
yeah. A couple weeks back, it was like it's hazy. Like you go outside and it smells like there's a slight campfire smell.
Oh man.
Actually, it's pretty crazy to know that it's traveling all that distance, and that we're seeing that, and it's hazy because it's the smoke, really. But yeah, it's manageable. We've had a couple days where it's just like, hey, don't go outside.
I'm glad
Don't
you're
work
safe.
out outside. Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
So gastric bypass, say you had the sleeve with us. So we primarily do the gastric sleeve, and we have a patented procedure called the safe sleeve, which is just makes things a little bit safer to the surrounding organs. It's fairly the same in terms of across the board for the gastric sleeve, but in terms of the order, without getting too technical, that is where we differ in terms of the actual procedure. We are located in Las Vegas, and we are primarily, I guess you could say, what's the term? It's medical tourism is what we've essentially mastered, so to speak, because we have patients from all over the world,
Mhm.
all over the country, some in different countries as well. It's about a 5 day process. You get qualified in terms of 5 days in terms of coming down to Las Vegas. We take care of the making sure that you're accommodated with the hotel and driven to the clinic to do all of your uh, pre-op preliminary procedures in terms of your vitals and uh, paperwork and all of those things. Is speaking to the doctor. The next day you would come in for surgery, and then the following day get your IV therapy and relax. We even do an IV therapy at the hotel because we have a partner hotel that everybody stays at. And we have a healthcare practitioner come in and give you an IV at the hotel as well to make sure that you are good, check up on you. You do have um, a phone line to the doctor if you were having some issues
Wow.
or anything like that. And we try to make sure that every step is covered with your care, and then you are back home, within the 5 days. So it is very streamlined in that regard, but we also try to make you feel very safe. And we take all the extra precautions to make sure you are safe and you do have everything that you need. And also give you an opportunity to check out Vegas as well, because it is still a fun place to be. Unfortunately, you can't drink, but that's what people do when they come down here. But there's still a lot of activities that you can do. For me, it's going to be dealing with the pre-op and the post-op nutrition and the program. A lot of it is already created in terms of the videos that we do, and we try to put out a lot of media and a lot of either social media or resources in general, and you will continue to get emails post-op to make sure that you are on track, because some people don't get the support afterwards, and also it is very hard to speak to every single person with every single question. So that's why I like to put out as much resources as possible via the podcast, via the emails that you would get internally, and yeah, making sure that your hand is held pretty much throughout your journey. We do also do the bypass, but also this a SIPS procedure, which is basically a bypass after the SIPS. So, I'm sorry, after the sleeve and a bypass. We don't like to do the SIPS at the same time. It's some people do fail with the sleeve, right? With the first 6 months, as we've discussed, that is more of a foundation building period. And that is the program that we've created to ensure long-term success.
Mhm.
For me, I don't like to demonize any foods. I don't like to, take away entire food groups, but you are still here for a reason. And your relationship with food is very, very, well, it's strong. We're talking about a very short amount of time of change versus years of lifestyle that I want to kind of get a hold of, disrupt that relationship with food and create that foundation for long-term success. And that's where that 6-month period comes in. And that's the approach that we take. And then, of course, we can start introducing foods and create that balance. And I'm sure, Shay, you can attest to that, is you've created balance afterwards as well too. It's like, it's not that you're never going to be able to eat those foods again. It's just that I don't want you to revert to old habits. And that's where some people don't follow those rules, and I guess develop that foundation in the time period that's most valuable, and then it becomes a lot harder to do so down the line. So that's where we offer the SIPs to add an extra intervention to those who it didn't work out so well, and then add that bypass. But there's a whole nother gamut of criteria that you need to follow, because Rob, as you know, now it becomes a malabsorption procedure, and then vitamins, minerals, calories, the protein becomes a lot more important, because it is a malabsorption procedure.
For sure. I really enjoy the fact that you guys put so much emphasis on this. Like, I know some of the different programs around here, obviously it's totally different in regards to funding, in regards to who gets approved. All of it's very different. But I love, one of my main, I guess, critiques of a lot of the different programs is the lack of focus on dietary habits, right? It's cool that I know all about, how many calories a carb, protein, and fat is. It's cool that I know my food groups. It's cool I know all these different things and the priority of the certain things, but it doesn't address the fact that we've had 30, 40, 50 years of a specific relationship with food, and it has formed our habits, and it's informed the way that emotionally we relate to certain things, right? Because a lot of it is emotional. And so, like, I know one of the main things we constantly talk about on the show is, in Canada, I'm sure it's everywhere else, like, a lot of people say that first year is a gift, and you physically will lose because your body is very limited in terms of what you can take caloric wise. But at the end of the day, you don't just take that gift for granted and be like, okay, cool, I'm just going to lose, my body's going to do it. And then they're like, oh, and then after year 1, that's when it gets hard. Well, not if you put the foundation in and practice those habits in year 1, that makes year 2, year 3, year 4 something that you've now been doing for a while, right? Like, we need 100% to emphasize those things. So year 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 10 is not hard, right? And that's one of the things I know, like, I've always, everything that you were saying is, I feel like this is exactly what I had done or tried to do without that specific guidance. It would have been great if I had that guidance, but like, starting to build that balance, right? Like, the importance of building balance, right? And the reason we're called the waiting table is because in my culture, in Filipino culture, where do we gather? Around the table, right? We gather around the
Always.
table, we share, we break bread, we enjoy, and you're not having any fun if I'm sitting at the table looking at you eat pizza and I'm pissed off, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, how do I always say that the goal of this is not necessarily to lose weight. It is. That's obviously part of
Mhm.
it, but it's to gain a specific level of happiness, I think, right? And I think that is all encompassing of the whole experience, right? I'm sitting at a table, I can eat a little piece of pizza. I can eat one little piece of pizza and not a whole pizza anymore, right? Because I've learned to control things. I've learned what moderation is. I've learned to be able to have that relationship with food that I'm not going to eat the whole thing. And I can eat a small piece or I can eat one slice and not feel guilty about it, right? And I think that's something I think we need to emphasize more. And I absolutely love the fact that that is a big part of what the program is that you guys have set up. So that's awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you. I always tell people too that even within the first year, we are human and we
Yeah.
will have moments of weakness. And this tool's not going to change your relationship with food overnight. So utilize this tool as a tool.
Yeah.
And to do so, you will buffer those moments of weakness with good food. So that's where I try to teach to just eat the protein and veggies first,
Yeah.
right? Always eat the protein and veggies first and then,
Yeah.
right? Realistically, especially in the first year, in the first 6 months, it will be a bite, maybe two, but it will kill the nostalgic feeling or whatever that you're craving, but you won't do as much damage as if you were to lead with that.
Yeah.
So by leading with the protein and veggies or just protein, you're gonna fill up enough to where that one bite is all it takes. Because
Yeah.
again, where's the relationship with food at that moment? Are you gonna
Yep.
keep going? We can't just have one, but you are also physically restricted.
Yeah.
Maybe you can only have one now because you already had,
Yep.
let's say, a protein shake or an egg or something like that, or a piece of steak, chicken, what have you.
Yeah.
And just a little tip for the listeners, right? Lead with the protein and veggies. It will
Yeah.
buffer those moments.
And that's the big thing too, right? Like it's all about those habits, right? It's all about,
Mhm,
you know, I the way I sort of think is always about sequences, right? Processes.
mhm,
And so it's like, okay, what do I start with and why? For me, it's all about understanding why protein is important, why I'm drinking water separate from my meal.
mhm,
Why, like, so I've done resets where it's like, I notice for me when I'm training, my calorie intake's high because I am very
mhm.
active. But when I don't train, I have to be able to be versatile enough to know that my caloric intake can't be that same level, right?
Yeah.
And so it's sort of like, how do I get back to where I need to be, and how do I make sure that I have those same habits that I need to do to be able to sustain that as well as feel satisfied? And it's sort of like, okay, well, bring it back to the basics. For me, it was about prioritizing protein in your meal, making
Mhm.
sure you have your fiber and your water, but it's also all the little things I did from the very beginning. When I eat, putting my fork down, taking my
Mm.
time, chewing my food a lot. Like I know, like I usually will eat like half a whole grain bagel as part of my breakfast, as my
Yeah.
carb portion for my breakfast. When I'm not training, if I were to actually take my time with eating it, I will be full off a half, right? If I don't have that need. But
Yeah.
it's sort of taking that time to understand that, taking time to understand how adding different things changes that, and not and understanding that it's not always the same. We have to be able to change things up, right?
There's a tip I have for that too about just kind of forcing yourself to wait between is you try using your non-dominant hand,
Ooh, that's
for
a
your
good
fork.
one.
It makes you more hyper aware of that because you
Yeah.
can't like you can't
And
put it
wear
in
a
your mouth
bib when you
properly.
do
Where
that.
rib. Yo,
Yeah.
I even now I eat with my kids. Like, so my kid is, I have an 8-year-old and I have a 6-year-old that are coming in right now for some reason.
Yeah.
Always.
Hi.
Good night, Daddy.
Good night, sweetheart. Love you.
Are you live?
That's
See, I was
Lily.
just like, okay, at this
We,
time, come in, so I look like a good dad and stuff.
yeah.
Okay, yeah,
I'll
bye.
tuck you in later.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Good night.
Uh,
Yeah. So like, I still will. Oh God, number 2, Shay's biggest
Here comes
fan.
Marcus.
hey, what's up, buddy? Oh, look at that.
Good night.
Okay. Good night.
Rob's
Do
little
one of
mini
these.
me.
Bye.
Yeah.
But I still
Daddy,
eat off my kids' plates, right? The small plates. I still
Yeah.
eat with their teaspoons, right? Because for me, I'm so used to my old school way of I have a tablespoon. I'm loading that thing up with rice and I'm downing it, right? And now
Yeah.
I have a smaller spoon. I know not to load that up, so I have like a specific amount, and they're just little things for me to cue
Yeah.
in. This is what I need to do. This is what I don't need to do, right? And so that's a
And even
great
as
tip with the
Filipinos,
non-dominant.
it's
Oh,
the primary, what's
that's it.
primary on the plate is rice.
Yeah,
Rice has always been that way. I
yeah.
didn't even start picking that up until I started getting into nutrition and bodybuilding. That like I'm not supposed to have that much rice. It was so growing up, and I don't know if it was the same for you growing up. Is whatever the protein was a side,
To my
right?
rice.
Yeah, to
Yeah,
the rice. And now rice is of course the
yeah.
side, and it's got to be the primary. It's going to be the protein of veggies.
And the good thing too about the rice discussion, and I talk about the cultural part because even me as a peer mentor, I mentor a lot of people who are of Asian descent as well, because these are challenges that we know growing up and has been solidified over this much time. Um, I'll still eat rice. I will
Yeah,
not get rid of it, right? But again, I understand, um, how to control the portions, where it lands in the order of what I'm eating.
of
Like
course.
every spoon doesn't have to be, a big scoop of rice and then a little piece of meat. It's sort of like what order I'm doing everything. But then the other thing I do a lot more now is I time specific types of carbs and protein, mainly carbs, for specific activities. Like I have very
Yeah.
specific carbs at specific times of the day because of my activity level, what I do, all these different things. So I think the more educated we get, the more we work with dietitians, the more we look into the resources we have available to us, the more we can do these things and still not feel like we're depriving ourselves from things, right?
The most
Um,
important meal of the day is your post-workout meal.
that's the one. That's
That's-
it. Always, always.
yes,
And then
yes,
we talk about this a lot too, because I was also part of a bariatric fitness group, and we have amazing people. We have amazing people there. One of the ladies who we've had on the show, she was part of that as well. She just competed for a fitness competition, like a bodybuilding
nice.
competition, for
Yeah.
like this transformation category. Grandmother. She's, I think, in her late
What's her
50s,
name?
early 60s. Erin Denton.
Oh, okay.
But she was actually really looking forward to this episode too. She had seen the
Nice.
post, and it's sort of like, when people are training this much, if you're active, the rules don't necessarily fully change. We still need to recover. So how do we
Yeah.
do that? How do we utilize the very limited intake that we have to do that and fuel ourselves for the future, right? For the next workout, the next day,
100%.
all those different things. And I think that's, I know that was my biggest concern about having a gastric bypass. I remember I had my surgeon appointment. My only question
Mhm.
was, so I do like long distance cycling as well.
Okay.
And my question was, can I still do long distance cycling um, with the limited intake that I have? And there wasn't a very good answer because I don't think it was a very common thing, right? But
Yeah,
it's sort
yeah.
of understanding how I can do that, how I can drink and have carbs at the same time and have all my hydration, but have it in a form that doesn't upset my stomach or cause any like dumping, because it's not all like
Yeah.
high sugar or like quick release sugar or anything of that nature. So there's a lot of stuff we can do post-op, but utilize your resources. Go to your dietitians, learn about different
Absolutely.
things. Don't let
And
that
it's
keep you.
doable with especially with the bodybuilding and
For
powerlifting. I've
sure.
actually taken patients from surgery to the stage, and
Yes.
what I speak on outside of bariatrics is a little bit, uh, con- it's I'm contradicting what I'm saying in the clinic, but understand that it is because it is the first 6 months, first year again,
Yeah.
building that foundation.
Hmm.
Because I also deal with a ton of first time um, first time bodybuilders, and that's where a lot of other coaches send their first time clients to me, because a lot of the coaches who are seasoned don't want to have to deal with that. I have the patience to be able to explain and speak on it, and a lot of people have taken in the media and all of the demonization of rice and potatoes
Yeah.
and things like that, to where it's like, oh yeah, I respond very poorly to X, Y, and Z. It's like, stop. Okay, like those are preconceived notions that you've believed, but you've never done it long enough to see it work. And every one of my clients, I have them eat rice and potatoes pretty much every day, all the way up until show, and you're able to. It's just about the consistency, but also what are you doing with your time, with the activity. I always tell people that your metabolism is a reflection of your lifestyle leading up to this point, and everybody's lifestyle is different. Also, what you do after surgery is going to impact your needs, because one person can develop a passion for powerlifting, whereas another a passion for video games. Two completely different lifestyles that will impact your needs based off of your activity. So factoring all of those in is going to dictate whether or not, yes, the answer is always going to be yes, but how much of it, and what are you doing in terms of your activity? If you're not doing much, then of course not. We can't indulge the same way as somebody else would, and you wouldn't be able to utilize those carbohydrates and have the body composition to show for it without balance. And that's all it is. It's about balance, regardless.
For sure.
And I think another thing to keep in mind, and something that I'm just now really diving into and learning, is from the female perspective, taking into account our cycle. Like, that's just something that I know Rob and Murph always
every
get so
show, it's like Shay's
uncomfortable.
goal is to talk about periods.
I
Every
know.
show.
But
Oh
see,
my God.
I
We
was
got
not
it. We got
educated.
it.
If I wasn't educated about my own body, I doubt that our male listeners are as educated as well. But just being mindful of that, because I had somebody on here had said, addressing like body dysmorphia, how do we overcome that after weight loss? And I've noticed for me, starting to see patterns of, depending where I'm at in my cycle, that plays into that a lot. So like with men, they have 24-hour cycles, whereas women, we have 4-week cycles, where every week it's something different that's happening within our bodies. And so when you were talking, Alex, about like, what is our body doing and how do we use food to fuel it properly? That I think is something that a lot of times I know I didn't take into consideration, but it's like, where am I in my cycle? I could be expending more energy just by simply being at certain stages in my cycle without doing anything different. But it's just something that I think that we should be more mindful of as well. So
hormones are crazy.
That's what I was going to say, right?
A lot.
Yep.
And even not even just like hormones based on, your gender, but you want to find a good way to be able to continuously lose weight and keep weight off. Manage stress. Learn how to manage stress.
Huge.
Because that is a common denominator with a lot of health issues, with obesity, with holding on to weight. Your cortisol levels are going to be high. Make sure you get enough sleep, right? We don't do that as a society. All these matter, right? And so
big time.
For sure. And not even just like, even looking at your testosterone levels or growth hormone levels based on how you eat and how you time certain things. It's everyone. We have these hormones. It's not just people who train really hard. We all have these hormones. So how do we utilize them and be able to manage them for what goals we have? And I think that's important to also understand, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. And yeah, our hormones are affected big time, and what you do day in and day out, especially the sleep, and even with the fluctuations in weight, for those who are doing everything right, one of the questions I do ask is, how's your stress? What is going on in your life right now? Did you have a recent loss, or are you dealing with, maybe not a person, but a job or whatever the stress may be? And even the pandemic proved that a ton. with how people managed their stress during the pandemic, and it affected them quite a bit, and it would be on a hormonal level. You Even though you're not really doing anything, the mind can really influence that
100%.
very, very effectively and ineffectively.
We have a question, Shay. I know you brought up body dysmorphia, so we have a question. Can you address body dysmorphia and how do we overcome this after weight loss surgery? I'm 17 months out from surgery at Blossom.
All right, Robin, how are you doing? When it comes to body dysmorphia, that is very individual. Okay,
Mhm.
my question for you is, what does success look like?
Yes.
Okay, because where is this dysmorphia coming from, and is it influenced by social media? Is it influenced by other people in the family? Like, what would make you happy? And I honestly reflect on that question. um, and of course there are a ton of other non-scale victories or things in life that you are grateful for, because there are things that we're doing. Obviously, we had a bariatric surgery. That's going to be part one. If you're going to exercise, if you're not exercising, what's going to get you to that level. And I would also encourage you to have pretty much a picture of what you want,
Mhm.
right? Even physically, and then find the steps to attain that. So that turns into another journey of reaching that, when it comes down to if you're going to get plastic surgery, if you're going to do weight, like skin removal surgery or X, Y, and Z. But the biggest question will be, what does success look like to you, and reflect on that. Otherwise, you're just going to be eating yourself up, no pun intended, in terms of trying to figure that out and just being unhappy for no reason,
Yeah.
because you already went through this step. How much weight have you lost? I'm sure it is significant, and also commendable what you've accomplished. Where does it end, and what do we need to do to get to where you think you need to be, right?
And also it's worth saying that this is a lot of change in a really short
Yeah.
amount of
Yeah.
time, right? Like
And we lose
it
sight
I
of
know
that.
for yeah, I know for me, like it's taken a while to catch up. And it's been little incremental things that have been where I've been able to start making that connection of, wow, this is my body. Like this is very different than it was a year ago. It's honestly very different than it was a couple months ago. Like it's still
Yeah.
shifting and changing, and so it's a lot to have changed in a short amount of time. And so I know I had somebody recently explain the difference between body dysmorphia and Rob. It was on our podcast. What were the two
Yeah.
different languages? Body dysmorphia and
Yeah, I
body.
don't remember, but I remember this the discussion, right?
Yeah,
Like
one
true
is.
clinical body dysmorphia
Mhm,
versus sort of just the way that you sort of view yourself and how it's sort of hard to come to terms with the changes, right? Because
mhm, mhm,
it is, right? Like you said, it's a lot of change in a short period of time, and it may not be specifically what the actual mental health issue is or the clinical breakdown of what body dysmorphia is, but it's still something to always keep in mind because,
mhm,
it is something that, we talked about how food emotionally has its effects. So does everything about, what we're doing, right?
mhm,
Certain experiences we had when we were larger, they bring back emotional feelings. I still have certain things happen to me where I'm like traveling and then I freak out in my head because I'm like, oh crap, the flight attendant's going to try to help me with my seatbelt and I might have to ask for an extender or something like that, right? One thing I would suggest, and Dr. Shivers is on. Dr. Shivers is my plastic surgeon who did my skin removal surgery.
Dr. Shivers, how are you?
Yeah, remember Dr. Shivers, if you go to his clinic, use TWT 25 to get 25% off your next procedure. I don't know if that's true. We're just going to say it anyways, bro. Uh,
We just
also,
like to mention him. He's been on our show a couple times.
Blossom Bariatrics, if you want to use TWT 15%, guys, go get it.
That's right.
Yeah, give us a call, 855 Blossom,
There
and
it
just
is.
mention the podcast.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll do something for you.
But honestly, so one thing, Robin, that I found worked really, really, really well for me is to have constant reminders of how far you've come, right? Because a lot of times,
Yes.
and I went through this. So when I was 380 pounds, if you said that I would be 200 pounds or 250 pounds, I would have been like, hell yeah, I'm going to be so happy. I wouldn't be unhappy about
Mhm.
anything. I get to 250 pounds. I wish I could do this. I get down to 170, like 170, like you can see my ribs, everything. And I'd be like, yo, if I was 170, I would be the happiest guy in the world. And I'm like, shoot, now I don't, I look scrawny. I want to put on muscle. Then I get to 190 because I put on muscle. And then it's sort of like, but now I have all this skin here. And then I go get skin removal surgery. And now it's like, there's always something. You're never going to be fully happy with yourself. But the thing that I found has helped me the most is keeping in mind where you came from, all you've achieved, celebrating all the things you've achieved, because then you start looking at yourself and instead of being like, oh, damn, I wish this was better. I wish I could do this. Now my comments to myself are like, damn, look at all the crap you've done. You used to do this. You used to look like this. Now you look like this. Now you have hashtag dem thought. I'm just but yeah, like this is
No,
stuff
I
like,
agree with that
right?
100%. And I actually speak on that to where managing realistic expectations after surgery, because we tend to lose perspective of time after surgery. And because we want results now, number
Yeah.
one, and
Yeah.
we tend to focus more on the frustrations rather than the victories. We lose sight of the victories and we focus on the frustrations. I'm sure anybody who has gone through this, who's listening right now, can attest to the frustrations of, I'm stalling, I can't seem to get it back under control. I'm doing everything right, but I'm not losing. But
Yeah.
then when you realize how long it's actually been and how much weight you've actually lost,
Right?
it's like by any other circumstance, you'd be elated at your
Yeah.
progress. Why are we so frustrated right now? It's because we lost perspective of time and we think that things need to happen like this
Mhm.
and we need to constantly be losing. And that's where you shouldn't weigh yourself every day and you should measure inches and of
Hammer.
course recognize how far you've come versus the problems of today or
Yeah.
yesterday or last week, right? Because those things will creep up on you, right? Old
Mhm.
habits will die hard. You will be in an airplane, just like you said, and you're gonna have the that moment of, holy crap, I actually don't need to ask that
Yeah.
question
Yeah.
because everything is great, you know. So good. Yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah. Just to give another perspective too, you hear it from Dr. Shivers here first. Sleep hygiene, hydrate, stretch, train, and nutrition, supplement if needed. Plastic surgery won't fix, or plastic surgery for things above won't fix. And so I
Correct.
know I've seen that in the community too, where it's like, you think that if I get plastic surgery, that's going to fix all my problems. The body dysmorphia will be gone. And then that often doesn't happen. So
And
definitely things to consider.
yeah, get all those fundamentals. And the way I sort of viewed it is plastic surgery was the celebration that I got to the
Mhm.
point, right? It wasn't okay, I need this to get to where I need to be. I was where I wanted to be anyways, right? This is the way to celebrate all the hard work that I put in, right? So I think that was awesome. And yes, like Dr. Shivers was awesome in regards to that. Dr. Shivers is also nominated at the Just Be You Awards in Washington, D.C., guys. So make sure you
Congratulations.
vote. Make sure you vote for Dr. Shivers. I'm trying to get him to come. And
We got
I don't
room
know
in
if
our house. We got
you,
room for one
hey, there
more.
you go. We got room.
Hey.
I want to get where
Um,
Rob is. Oh my God. Bull. Come play pickleball. Let's go.
Hey, Alex, do
Pickleball.
you have time for one more question?
Absolutely.
We got somebody in the chat who said, any tips on emotional eating? I do bored eating and mindless eating just because. Plus, when I do bad, which I don't like using that term, but I get where they're
Yeah.
coming from. I just spiral downwards. I'm still pre-surgery. I bet you know nothing about this, Alex, but you can take a good shot at it.
So yeah, I mean, you're pre-surgery right now too, so we're taking the steps, right? I imagine that you are on your way to getting surgery, but we're all emotional eaters, okay? And this is just society in every culture. In every culture, we eat when we're happy, we eat when we're sad, we eat when we celebrate, and we eat when pretty much everything, right? In every culture. But when it comes down to the boredom, this is where, and building this and establishing this earlier on is going to be helpful down the line too, when you do have when you have this tool. And like I said earlier, lead with the protein and veggies, right? So we will have moments of weakness, and it's going to happen. But with the tool, like I said, you're going to fill up with the protein and veggies first. Realistically, you're going to have maybe a bite or two, but that's it. And I say have it, give in. It's okay. You're emotional right now. And of course, Shay, there's hormones involved as well too at certain times. But also being aware of it is also a big is a big factor. You are aware that you are having these feelings at these times. Let's change up the routine. Okay. It's not, once you're aware of it and you have the tools to be able to change it, it just becomes a crutch, to say, okay, well, I mean, this is how it is. This is how I feel. This is what I've always done. So we need to change it up instead of sitting, bored. Pick up a hobby. That's one of the biggest ones as well, too. It's picking up a hobby, because we're bored for a reason, right? We have nothing to do. Maybe read a book or try to learn an instrument or a new language. Those are two big ones. I don't know why I always say that, but an instrument or a new language. And it is because I've always wanted to learn a new language. And I purchased the Rosetta Stone, but I'm also busy too. So had I had
You
the
can use
time,
the code at TWT15 on Rosetta Stone,
Yep.
get 15%
15%.
off. No, I'm kidding.
and yeah, or trying to learn an instrument. And one of the newest things that I'm doing is I'm trying to pick up some card magic. Like
Oh, there you go.
just
We're gonna see you on
something, just
the
something
streets
to
of
do.
Las Vegas going at it, Alex.
Yeah, check it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like just managing those. But the first step is you being aware of that, knowing that you are going to have this tool down the line, is building that fundamentals of leading with the protein and veggies, and taking advantage of this tool because of the restriction, and it's going to help out, and then also having a plan and having a goal in a time frame. I feel like that's going to be a huge factor as well. And that's what I implement with my competitors, is those that are questioning what, if they want to do this, if they don't, I had this idea that I want to, but I haven't really, let's see how I look like in a couple months. And if I want to continue, stop. Let's commit to it, because once you commit to it in a time frame, you have you don't want to embarrass yourself, because you've already mentally prepared yourself for this goal. And having that time frame and goals, smart goals, so to speak, right? It will allow you to say no. Otherwise, you go out, you get invitations. I truly believe that when we restrict ourselves is when the universe decides to give us the best invitations, right? So this is when the people come out of the woodwork, right? The events come, the parties come. It's like, what the heck? I just started my diet, like, I guess I could start next week. But once you commit to it, you're there, and then it becomes a little bit more clear in terms of where the focus needs to go and what you need to do. And you can't participate. Well, you can participate because, for the most part, it's the people, it's the laughs, it's the good times. But 99% of that, those good times, there's food involved. So you can you can eat before you get there, right? And then just enjoy the laughs and the people. And those are, a few tips sprinkled around a couple of different scenarios, but hopefully that's helpful.
No,
And
I
even
think
things like, oh, sorry, go on, Shay.
Oh, the only other thing I was going to add to it too, that it's just interesting in reflection. What I've noticed is that those times where I would emotionally eat, and I say it kind of past tense because I really don't do that very often now. Sometimes I'll notice it, but a lot of why I used to emotionally eat was actually a form of self-punishment. And I know that may sound a little odd, but I noticed patterns where I would be like, okay, I'm gonna eat really good. That's why I don't really use that language anymore of like eating good
Mhm.
or eating bad, because food is food. There's certain foods that give me more nutritional value than others, but no food is good or bad. That's just how I feel about it. But so it's like I had that mindset of like, okay, I'm gonna eat good with quotation marks around that. And then
Mhm.
I eat something that doesn't fall into that good category. It falls into the bad category. So then it turns into this shaming and self punishment of like, now I'm bad. So I'm just going to keep eating bad food as a way to punish myself. And it's not like
Yeah.
consciously I was aware of that in the moment while I was doing that. It's more looking back and reflecting on that. And so that's something to maybe consider or think about too, is like, why do I feel the need to fuel my body with foods that maybe don't make me feel good or kind of aren't within the goals that I have? Is it because I'm punishing myself, and why is that? And that gets into like deeper
Hmm.
conversations and thinking
Yeah.
through that, but just something I thought I would add.
Yeah, and one thing I also
100%.
add too is, it's the whole idea that, especially once you commit to something, then there's a certain level of planning, I think, that comes into consideration. Like if I'm going to a party, if I'm in the first 6 months, I know I need to stick within specific guidelines. I still want to go to the party. I still want to have fun. I still want to do that. Bring food.
Yeah.
Your friends are not, well, hopefully they don't judge you on that, or they understand and support you. I'll bring food. Or if you're doing a potluck, I'm providing the thing that I want to eat because I can eat that, right? And if no one else eats it, cool. Now I have dinner and lunch and all this other
Yeah.
stuff, right? A lot of times you have those options. And even with what you have at home, if you know that, when you're sitting around, you do tend to snack, then how does that work into your day? Do I adjust my timing of my other meals to spread that out? Because I know that this is the time when I usually snack. Can you put that into as a meal? And what are the available options that you have, right? You know, I tend to like crunchy food. Are there healthy, crunchy food that I can implement at this point because it hits the spot where what I need, right? Is there something higher in protein that I can put at this time, right? Do I
Yeah.
is this sort of like late night before I'm going to bed? Do I not want to eat something? I'm not going to have that rice, right? So,
Yeah. Absolutely.
plan. You know what you need to do. You know what your timelines are for everything. Plan it because you've committed, right? So,
Yeah, no, I get that 100%. There's not one thing haven't recommended that I haven't done myself. So
yeah.
as a competitor, I've done the restrictive eating and I've gone to the parties and have had people judge, in a certain way. And I've brought my own food into a restaurant, because it was my dad's birthday or something like that. But hey, I've committed to this
Hmm.
and I'm sorry. Well, actually, my wife gave me so much crap about it because I brought a scale. I brought a scale. So I ate the food there, but I brought a scale. So that's
You stored it in her
where it
purse though,
comes up.
right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
brought a little bag. It's like, what the heck? I was like, if I said this before we left, you think
Yeah.
you would have let me do this? Like, surprise.
Yeah, that's it, man.
So
But that's a
but
great
even
bariatric
earlier,
tip too. After bariatric surgery, that can
yeah,
be really helpful.
absolutely, absolutely. And even earlier on too, like first competition or even in the off season, you don't look as good, but then you go to a party and somebody is there that's saying like, "Hey, come on, bro, just one, man. Like this isn't like you. Just like what happened to the Alex I knew? Like, come
Yeah.
on, let's get shots." Like, no, man, no, I'm not gonna do it. It's You don't need to feel that pressure, right?
Hmm.
You can turn it off. They may judge you in the moment, but what happened later was afterwards. Once you lose the weight, once you look a different way, once you feel better, once you gain that confidence, you're going to see that person again and they're going to apologize because they're like, man, I judged you at the time,
Yeah.
but shit, good job. That's awesome. I can't
Yeah.
believe you lost all that weight. I can't believe that it's like, I'm sorry. And I've gotten apologies for that too, to where it was, hey, I'm sorry I was such a hole for trying to make you do that, but I'm glad you said no and then you stuck to your guns for it. So that's what I would recommend as well too, because plan for it, just as you said, Rob, but unapologetically, right?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, listen, I've committed to this, just as you would even with going through surgery. You spend all this money. If you would have gone through a route with a trainer or even
Mhm.
doing a competition, you still spent the money,
Yeah.
you're still committed to it. It's like get the most out of it,
Yeah.
right? You're not going to be any less of a person or a friend if you didn't have that drink, or have that cookie or something like that. And once again, it's the laughs, it's the good times, it's the company. It's not the fact that you are
Yeah.
eating that food. Maybe in the Filipino culture, it
Yes.
could be, it will be a little
Because
bit
the titas
offensive
won't leave you
as well,
alone, man.
but there's also judgment on both ends with the titas.
100%.
It's either you're too skinny or
Yeah.
you're too fat.
It's
right?
never
It's
good
like,
enough.
yeah, it's never good enough.
Never.
It's like, oh, why don't you eat? You're too skinny,
Yeah.
and it's like, why don't you lose some weight, but
Yeah.
have some food first? It's like, come on.
That's another
Come on,
episode
what
we
do you-
should do, cultural pressures, because that is a huge thing, right? Like
Oh
there's
yeah,
so many different ways that
100%.
people look at certain things. Is never good enough. Who to listen to, who not to listen to, how to manage that. And that's a big thing. But Alex, this has been like I kept looking at the time. I'm like, okay, we're over by 8 minutes, but I'm just like, I think
It
I've
doesn't
gotten,
even feel that. It
dude,
doesn't
I think
feel
I've
that way.
gotten like one question that I had. Like Shay is like, oh, jump in if you have any questions. I'm like, no, go ahead, Shay. All the questions I asked were not the ones I planned to ask. So we definitely, if you are open to
Do
it,
a
we
part
definitely,
two.
that's it, right? We need to do a part 2. So
I knew
yeah,
you guys would hit it off. And we'll have
Yeah.
to get you on, Alex, when Murph can be on too, because you guys will hit it off too. I knew
I
you
want
guys
to
would all
meet
get
Murph
along.
too.
yeah.
Miss
it's gonna
the
be awesome.
trio.
Yeah. So Alex, if you can you share with everyone where they can find you and throw in your plug for Blossom as well, man?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you do have questions, if you want to book, just give us a call, 855-BLOSSOM, BLOSSOM, or you can go on blossom.com. Otherwise, you can follow me on social media. Follow us on social media too. It's Blossom Bariatrics on pretty much all the platforms, even YouTube. Me myself, I just started ramping up my YouTube at the Rite Life, RITELIFE. Otherwise, you can also find me on Instagram as well at the Rite Life. So reach out. We're there to help you, and we look forward to seeing you.
We have to end it with the Alex. That was Alex Concepcion.
That was Alex Concepcion, Blossom Bariatrics.
Yeah, that was pretty close, actually. That was actually pretty close.
If you guys need a new hype person for the
Yeah.
podcast, Rob's available.
I'm down.
Done. Love
Different
it.
levels. Let's do
We
it.
should do this on the Blossom podcast. So Shay, I actually haven't even posted since our conversation. We've been so busy, but definitely have to
Yeah.
wrap it up again. But there's a
Yeah,
lot,
yeah.
and it's evergreen. So for any of you
Exactly.
that would like to check it out, it's called The Blossom Podcast on all the major platforms: Spotify, Pandora, Apple. It is public, so check it out. And it's evergreen. There's a ton of information on there. Hopefully, you get some value from it.
Definitely.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. That was amazing. Thanks for sharing your experience, all the different tips and tricks. I think those are some of the big things that people want to get whenever they jump onto any of the episodes. Super, super helpful. Helps people really, I think, navigate the journey, because that's all it is, right? It's a journey, and it's how do we get to where we want to go to, right? So thanks so much, very much, for sharing all that. And thank you so much to all you guys for joining us on the Waiting Table Podcast, where we're serving the weight loss community
1 pound at a time. That's usually Murph's line. That was good.
1 pound at a time.
Come on.
I was gonna do a deep voice, but I got
1
nervous.
pound at a time.
1 pound at a time with Alex
So-
Concepcion.
In the 90s, there was a wrestler named Val Venus. You won't know, Shay, because you're 12.
I
But
probably wasn't born.
yeah, you weren't born yet. That was like his voice. He was supposed to be like a porn star type wrestler. That was his gimmick. And he had that voice. So for some reason, that sort of jumps in my head. I don't know why.
I love
I'm
it.
gonna do a whole episode in that voice.
There you
Do
go.
it.
Okay.
Do it.
Then we're
Your
gonna
throat's
get
gonna be
kicked
sore
off.
by the end.
Yeah. 100%. All right, guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys.